The last time the market looked this safe, millions of people lost everything overnight. And right now in 2026, the exact same warning signs are flashing again. Not one or two, all of them, at the same time. But here's what nobody is telling you. The people who built the most wealth in history didn't do it during the good times. They did it during crashes. And if you understand what's actually happening right now, the coming market crash might be the single greatest financial opportunity of your entire life. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's building up in the economy right now, why a major crash is looking more and more likely, and most importantly, the step-by-step strategy you can use to not just survive it, but come out of it in a much stronger financial position than when it started. This isn't about fear. This isn't a prediction made out of panic. Every single thing I'm going to show you is backed by data, historical patterns, and some of the most respected names in investing. So if you're someone who actually wants to understand what's going on with money right now, stay with me, leave a like, and let's start with what's happening right now. Because most people have no idea. On the surface, everything looks fine. The stock market is near record highs. People are still spending money. Companies are still posting profits. And if you just looked at the headlines, you'd think the economy is in great shape. But underneath the surface, the numbers tell a very different story. First, let's talk about debt. Total US consumer credit card debt hit over $1.1 trillion in 2023 and has continued to grow since then. That's a record. People are not just spending their savings. They're borrowing money to pay for basic things, like groceries and rent. That's not a sign of a strong economy. That's a sign of an economy running on fumes. Second, interest rates. The Federal Reserve pushed rates to their highest levels in over 20 years to try and control inflation. For a long time, borrowing money was almost free. Companies built their entire business models around cheap loans. Regular people bought homes with ultra-low mortgage rates. Now all of that has changed. A 30-year mortgage in the US has been sitting around 7% to 8%. That means the monthly payment on a median-priced American home is now more than double what it was just 4 years ago. Millions of people simply cannot afford to buy, and millions more who already bought at low rates are locked in, unable to sell, unable to move. Third, valuations. There's a measurement called the Buffett indicator. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, has called it the single best tool for measuring whether the stock market is overpriced or not. It works by comparing the total value of all US stocks to the country's GDP, its total economic output. When that ratio is way above its average, it means stocks are priced way above what the economy can actually support. Right now, that ratio is close to double its historical average. The only other times it reached this level were just before the dot-com crash in 2000 and briefly before the 2008 financial crisis. Both times, what followed was devastating for anyone who wasn't prepared. Fourth, housing. Adjusted for inflation, US home prices today are higher than they were at the absolute peak of the housing bubble in 2006. That's not a small thing. In 2008, housing prices didn't need to fall by some massive amount to trigger a crisis. A drop of around 20 to 30% was enough to collapse the entire system. We are now in a more expensive housing market than that one was. And fifth, corporate earnings. A growing number of tech and growth stocks are still trading at 80, 90, even 100 times their annual earnings. That means investors are paying $100 today for every dollar a company earns per year. That kind of pricing only makes sense if you believe a company is going to grow incredibly fast for a very long time. History shows that rarely happens. And when the growth slows down even slightly, those stocks can fall 50% or more almost overnight. So when you add all of this together, what you get is a financial system under real stress, with a stock market still priced as if everything is perfect. But to survive, you can also open your YouTube channel, since YouTube is the golden opportunity of this decade, and I can help you in my free community in the link below. Now, some people look at this and say, okay, but hasn't the market been expensive before and just kept going up? Yes, that's true. And that's exactly what makes this dangerous. Markets can stay overvalued for a long time, sometimes years, and the longer they stay up, the more people convince themselves that nothing bad will happen, that this time is different, that the old rules don't apply anymore. That thinking is called late cycle euphoria, and it shows up at the top of almost every major market bubble in history. People stop asking, is this risky? And start saying, it can only go up. When you start hearing that, it means the end is getting closer. Let me give you a historical example to make this real. In 1999, everyone was pouring money into internet stocks. Companies with no profits, no real products, sometimes not even a real business plan, were worth billions of dollars. The logic was simple. The internet is the future, so everything internet-related must be worth buying. Anyone who said the prices were too high was called old-fashioned or out of touch. Then in March 2000, it all collapsed. The Nasdaq index fell by about 80% over the next 2.5 years. Trillions of dollars in wealth disappeared. In 2006 and 2007, the same thing happened in housing. Banks were giving mortgages to people with no income, no job, and no assets. Homes were being flipped for fast profits. Everyone assumed prices could only go higher. Then the default started. The banks panicked, and within 18 months, the global financial system was on the edge of complete collapse. Now, in 2024 and 2025, we saw the same energy show up again. AI stocks trading at extreme valuations, crypto gambling at levels that made 2021 look moderate, real estate priced beyond what the average income can support, meme stocks, SPACs, digital assets that nobody fully understands being traded for life-changing amounts. The characters change. The mask is always different. But the underlying human behavior, the greed, the overconfidence, the feeling that this time is special, never changes. And neither does the ending. Now here's something important about the Federal Reserve, because most people misunderstand this completely. When the Fed finally starts cutting interest rates, the mainstream reaction is celebration. People cheer, markets often jump. The assumption is that lower rates mean easier borrowing, which means more growth, which means everything gets better. But if you look at what actually happened historically, the reality is the opposite. The Fed cut rates in January 2001, after the dot-com bubble had already started deflating. They cut rates in September 2007, right before the housing crisis turned into a full collapse. The rate cuts didn't prevent the crashes. In many cases, they were the signal that the crashes were beginning. Because the Fed only cuts rates when the economy is actually starting to crack. The cuts are a response to damage already done. By the time they happen, the process has already started. So if and when the Fed begins cutting aggressively in 2026, don't take it as a sign that everything's fine. Watch what happens next. Here's where everything shifts. Because I don't want you to walk away from this feeling scared. I want you to walk away from this feeling ready. Because here is the truth that most people miss. Crashes don't destroy wealth. They transfer it. Money doesn't disappear in a crash. It moves. It moves from people who were unprepared, emotional, and reactive to people who were patient, disciplined, and ready. Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway, was sitting on roughly $325 billion in cash and short-term bonds at the end of 2024. That's not because Buffett is scared of investing. It's because he understands one thing better than almost anyone else alive. Cash during a crash is not a missed opportunity, it's a weapon. When markets fall 30%, 40%, even 50%, the investors who have cash can buy great companies at massive discounts. The investors who are fully invested and leveraged up have no choice but to sell at the worst possible time, often just to cover their losses. During the 2008 financial crisis, Buffett invested $5 billion in Goldman Sachs at the height of the panic. He negotiated terms that gave him guaranteed returns, while the rest of the world was terrified. Within a few years, that single move returned billions in profit. He didn't know the exact bottom. He didn't need to. He just needed to be ready when fear reached its peak. That's the strategy, and you can apply it at any level, whether you have $500 to invest or $500,000. So let's talk about exactly how to position yourself right now, before the crash actually happens. Because this is where most people make the mistake. They wait for the crash to start thinking about strategy. By then, it's too late. Step 1. Build your dry powder. Dry powder is a term investors use for cash or near-cash investments that are waiting to be deployed. Think of it as your financial ammunition. You don't need to sell everything you own. But right now, while markets are still near their highs, having a meaningful portion of your money in cash or short-term government bonds is not a bad idea. Even moving 20 to 30% of your investments into something stable and liquid gives you real power when prices fall. The more patient you are now, the more aggressive you can be later. Short-term US Treasury bills, for example, currently yield around 4 to 5% annually. That's not exciting compared to stocks during a bull market. But it means your dry powder is growing while you wait, and it won't drop 40% when the market does. Step 2. Make your shopping list now. Crashes happen fast. When panic sets in, people sell everything, even the great companies. In 2008 and 2009, companies like Apple, Amazon, and JP Chase all fell dramatically, even though they were fundamentally solid businesses. Apple dropped over 50% from its peak. People thought it was done. Right now, while you're thinking clearly, write down the companies, ETFs, or assets you believe in long-term. Look for businesses that make real profits, carry manageable debt, and have a dominant position in their industry. These are the ones that will recover after a crash. These are the ones worth buying when everyone else is selling. You don't need a long list. 5 to 10 genuinely great businesses is enough. Step 3. Understand the assets that tend to hold value or even gain during downturns. Not everything crashes equally. During times of market stress and economic uncertainty, certain types of assets tend to perform better than others. Gold has historically been seen as a store of value during financial crises. During the 2008 crash, while the stock market lost around half its value, gold held relatively steady and then rose significantly in the years that followed. It's not a growth asset, but it acts as a buffer. Defensive stocks, meaning companies that sell products people need no matter what the economy is doing, like food, medicine, and utilities, tend to fall much less than growth stocks during crashes. These aren't exciting, but they protect your portfolio from the worst of the damage. And bonds, specifically short-term government bonds, become more attractive when stocks fall, because investors look for safety. Having some exposure to bonds can reduce your overall losses during a market collapse. Step 4. Open your YouTube channel. No, just kidding. But if you want really to start, I can help you in my free community in the link below. The real step 4 is to think about real estate carefully. This one is more nuanced. Real estate prices have been inflated by years of low interest rates and restricted housing supply. In some markets, prices may still have significant room to fall, especially if rates stay high and the economy weakens. But real estate in strong locations with real economic activity behind them, jobs, population growth, demand for housing, tends to recover and grow over time. If property prices fall meaningfully in the next year or two, that could be a very serious buying opportunity, particularly in cities and regions where demand is genuinely strong. The key is to not be forced into buying. Right now, if you're in a position where you need to buy a home at current prices and current interest rates, the math is genuinely difficult. But if you can be patient and wait for a correction, the opportunity could be significant. Step 5. Control your emotions, because this is the hardest part. Here's what will happen when the crash comes. Your phone will light up with notifications. Every news channel will be running crash coverage 24 hours a day. Your friends and family will be talking about how much money they're losing. Social media will be full of people predicting the complete collapse of everything. And your brain, built over thousands of years to respond to threats by running away, will scream at you to sell, to get out, to make it stop. The investors who build real wealth in crashes are not people who feel no fear. They feel it the same as everyone else. The difference is they don't act on it. They've already decided in advance, before the fear arrives, what they're going to do. They have a plan, and when the moment comes, they follow the plan instead of the emotion. This is why preparation is everything. If you wait until the crash is happening to figure out your strategy, fear will make the decisions for you. And fear always makes the worst financial decisions. So let's bring this all together. The economic conditions right now are showing patterns that have historically preceded major market corrections. Extreme stock valuations by the Buffett indicator, record consumer debt, a housing market priced higher than before the 2008 crash, and a Federal Reserve that has used most of its tools already. None of this means you should panic. None of this means the crash happens tomorrow. Timing markets exactly is impossible for anyone, including the most experienced professionals in the world. But it does mean that the people who understand what's happening, who take steps now to position themselves correctly, who have cash ready, who have a shopping list prepared, who have thought through their emotional response in advance, those are the people who will look back on 2026 as the year that changed everything for them financially. Because that's how this always works. When prices fall, it's not the end. It's a clearance sale on quality assets. The question is whether you're holding cash and plan, or whether you're holding panic and regret. Wealth is not built by avoiding crashes. It's built by being ready for them. The people who bought great companies in early 2009, after the financial crisis, saw their investments multiply several times over within a few years. The people who bought Bitcoin when it fell to around $3,500 at the end of 2018 made extraordinary returns. The people who held Apple through the dot-com crash and bought more when it was cheap became very wealthy over the following decade. None of them needed to predict the future perfectly. They just needed to be prepared, be patient, and be willing to act when everyone else was frozen by fear. You have a real chance to be one of those people, but only if you start preparing now, before the chaos begins. Build your cash position. Write your shopping list. Learn to sit with discomfort. And when the storm hits, don't run from it. Walk through it with a plan. If this opened your eyes to something, subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.